Hello everyone, very good evening. So let's wait all our friends to join the session. We'll start within 2 minutes. So we all know that we have almost November, December, January, February, March, April, May. Here, how should we utilize our time? By giving minimum time, getting the maximum return, and irrespective of your stage of preparation, still you may be a beginner, you may already have appeared, but still, what should be the strategy which will work for sure? See, we are not going to try something which is experimental. I am only going to tell you that which has worked for all the toppers and what they have done. And I'm not going to tell you something which is impractical and which is ideal. I'm only going to tell you which is very practical and which you can replicate. So those are the things that we are going to focus. So when we are targeting this examination, always try to keep a target in front of you. What should be the score that you have to get in general studies examination? So anyhow in CSAT you have a cutoff in front of you. So in GS, your target should be 120, a minimum of 110, not below that. Okay. So if you are belonging to any category, it should be 110. If you are under general, then it should be 120. So your approach should be in such a way you target the forest prelims. Though you are not writing it, you target the forest prelims. Then easily you will be able to clear in the CSE prelims. And for CSAT, our target should be around 85 marks, not 66.6. So if possible, target 100, but at least 85 should be your target. So in worst case, you don't have to think about clearing the examination. So this is about just the target setting for the examination. So how to score 110 to 120 and how to achieve that 85 marks in the CSAT paper. We are going to say it. I am not going to keep this session long. I want to just discuss exactly what is needed and what all the aspirants who have cleared have done. Okay. See, in GS we have two components. One is static, other is current affairs. Now there are plenty of videos that are available on YouTube telling you what is the strategy, which book you have to follow, and there are many good people who are explaining the things. Today I am standing here only to make you tell that or to make you do those things which you cannot avoid at any cost. Okay, so current affairs, you have to do certain things and you have to avoid certain things. So what are the do's and what are the don'ts? Let's look at it. Now the first thing, when you are approaching the static, your objective should not be completion. Okay, everybody what they think, I'll finish Lakshmikant, I'll finish Spectrum, I'll finish NCRT. This is their target. Completion shall not be the target, but understanding those areas which are being asked and working on those areas of PYQs very carefully. So I'm going to tell each and everything. Okay. So just try to focus on these things, because many a times we'll take a book, we'll sit with the book and we think that okay, I'll finish chapter 1, I'll finish chapter 2. Is your objective finishing the chapter, or is your objective solving a question when asked from that particular chapter? So when you are approaching that particular chapter, you should approach in such a way that you should be able to solve a question when asked from that area. Just by finishing, it doesn't mean that you'll be able to clear the examination. So if you observe, everybody who is reading for prelims will finish these basic books. You don't have to read much more than that. These basic books are sufficient. So for the static books which are suggested, let's look into it. So first thing, what should be your target score? And now every subject cannot be read equally. Okay, so suppose you are giving 100 hours to polity, you are also giving 100 hours to international relations. The ratio is not the same, because you should give based on your return that you get on your investment. So your ROI has to be high. So you should plan in such a way that you prioritize topics. If you are putting 5 hours, what outcome you are getting, that should be maximum, and give to that subject where you are getting the maximum output. So prioritization of subject is very important, and you should also focus on the previous year questions. Okay, so now again, see, I'll be discussing these things very clearly, but I'm just giving you a brief of this. Okay, so first you should set a target, and then you should also keep in your mind that you should prioritize the most important subject. And next thing is focusing on the previous year questions, and the fourth thing is practice. So first, take the PYQs of that particular subject. Don't solve them, rather understand. Because if you see the PYQs once or twice, you'll remember the answer automatically. Then you'll think that I've solved this question. But that's not the intention here. You have to observe the question carefully and all the statements that are asked. And now you should analyze the each statement in such a way that tomorrow, if any question comes from this statement, if any question is coming from these statements, then you should be able to answer. So that's why your target is not at all solving the PYQs, but understanding it carefully. So now, when you pick a subject, suppose I am taking polity Lakshmikant, and in Lakshmikant, the very first chapter is historical background or acts that are there. So now when I take acts, I'll see all the PYQs. I'll look at each question, what statement they are asking. So from there, what I am understanding, first I am understanding what UPSC is asking. Since I am solving large number of PYQs from 20 years, 25 years, I am understanding how UPSC is changing the question. See, what UPSC does is, first it used to ask directly from the book. Then what UPSC has done, UPSC has given analytical question. Then UPSC is asking on the same topic, but it is digging deep further and asking different components of the same thing. Sometimes you have to understand what is happening with respect to those things in the current affairs as well. So you can understand first what is being asked, then you will be knowing what you should be studying when you open your book. Why you have to do your PYQs first before going to the book? Because you should be knowing what you have to study, where you should put your energy. So you'll get to know this by solving the PYQs, not just solving but by understanding. Then you will also understand how the questions are evolving over a period of time. In 2010, how were the questions? In 15, in 20, now in 25, 26, how it's going to be. So from that, you will assess to what depth you have to work upon your subject. So PYQs are your guiding light for your entire prelims preparation. Don't just solve them. You can solve them, but it should not end with that. You should understand what is the repetition pattern, and at the same time, is there any scope or is there any worth mentioning of these statements in the future coming questions. So you have to understand this carefully, and PYQs become one of the most important part of your preparation. Do not miss this. So what you can do, now you are at this stage of preparation, this is November 15th or 16th. Now what you can do is daily two topics. Don't take much more than this. What you will do, there are around 70 to 80 themes which yield very high in UPSC. So you will be noticing certain themes which are occurring very frequently. So in economy, if you see, it is monetary policy and macroeconomics fundamentals like inflation, depreciation, at the same time how whether the rupee is appreciating or depreciating, rear, near. So there are multiple macro fundamentals that are related to the economy, so they can ask them. So every year if you notice, the major chunk of the questions will come from monetary policy and banking, and at the same time the macro fundamentals, macroeconomic fundamentals. So now you know those themes very well. What you will do, you pick the topics from those themes, daily two topics, solve all the PYQs. Okay, first you are trying to observe the pattern, what is being asked. So you are getting to know what is asked. Then you are also doing the reverse engineering. Through this reverse engineering, what happens, you will be understanding what is missing in your book, what you should be reading from current affairs. At the same time, the concepts that you don't know, you will be learning through the PYQs itself. So now your concepts are also being completed. At the same time, the information that is being missed is also known. So you are knowing what is asked, you are also doing the reverse engineering. Now almost by covering these 80 themes, so 80 themes will be having around 100, 120 or 160 topics. Suppose assuming that these themes have 150 topics. So within next 75 days itself, you should be thorough with all the PYQs on these topics. Okay, by January, okay, by Jan end, you should be thorough with all the PYQs that are asked with each and every statement. And if tomorrow a question comes from there, you will be easily able to solve. So that itself assures your 50% of your preparation. So if you are doing this, your 50% of your preparation is done with respect to general studies. Now coming to the reading of static books. See, you have current affairs also. We'll be discussing this. Okay, dealing with static books. There are main core subjects, that is polity, economy, environment, geography, see science and tech, history. So they are little vast to complete, because science and tech current affairs are also many. We have to read them, but priority has to be given on these areas. So when you are reading these four, First, we have to focus on the most important areas. Okay, then you have history, science and tech, IR, mapping. So I keep mapping under geography itself. Okay, so I'll place it here. So you have IR and other subjects, right? So history, since it's vast, high yielding areas, that means you have certain low hanging fruits, so which you put very less time, because Buddhism, Jainism. So if you read it immediately, you will get it. And at the same time, protests are asked. And at the same time, you'll also notice the personalities are asked in the UPSC. Acts are asked. So in modern history, if you notice, acts are asked, and personalities such as Gandhi or Nehru, some or the other person, or their books will be asked. So those areas we should finish first, and Indian national movement shall be finished first, and rest of the areas you can focus accordingly. So we'll look in detail what all has to be focused here, but I'll be telling you that first finish these four subjects, then move to these three things. Okay, so then you have other areas also miscellaneous, and current affairs. Here you should not give more than 2 hours any day to current affairs. What happens, most of the students, they think that they think that they have to study current affairs because UPSC is asking current affairs based questions, and their proportion of time allocated to current affairs is not managed properly, because of which at the end they'll be leaving all the static content. Now, for every subject, okay, we'll be taking every subject, that is polity. So in polity, there are plenty of chapters that you have. Okay, so in this, first we have already solved PYQs. If you have solved and understood properly, you will be noticing only 5 to 7 chapters are having large amount of weightage. So when there is huge weightage for these chapters, you should ensure that your accuracy, your accuracy should be very high when the questions are predictable, because these questions everybody will be doing right, and if you are going wrong here, then you are losing out in the competition, right? First, in the polity, if you take, see, I have made the list of the topics in each subject, which are the areas they have been very important, which you have to finish first, and then move to other chapters. Okay, so first finish all the important areas of all the books, and then you move to the other chapters. If you sit on all the chapters equally, then again you are going to lose out. So we don't leave anything, but first finish these important areas. So suppose you have historical background of Indian constitution, then you have parliament, okay, then you have legislature. At the same time, you also have president, right? So president is also asked very frequently. You have schedules, sixth schedule, fifth schedule, ninth schedule, first schedule. If you notice, one or the other schedule will keep coming every year. So I have made a list of these topics which have been very frequently asked. So those areas have to be emphasized first. You finish them first. So now if you finish them, it is finishing of 80% of polity just by giving 20% of time. Suppose if you have planned to read entire polity for 30 hours, okay, so now by giving 6 to 7 hours itself, you will finish this time. Okay, so now you are finishing 80% of your return from these topics by giving very less time. So by then itself, you will gain the confidence tomorrow. Out of 10 questions given, 8 questions I am sure to solve in polity. So that's how you have to prepare. And again, I told you PYQs shall be solved before going to this topics. Okay, I'll give you the list of topics. There are only 5 to 7 that you can do it. Then coming to economy. Economy, I told you, right? See, other than those chapters that have been asked, rest all are current affairs only. Mostly they are current affairs in polity. And again in economy also, if you notice, the major areas that are asked, one is monetary policy and banking. then fundamentals of macroeconomy. And when you're solving economy, the focus shall be on the conceptual clarity and its application. So again, when you look at the PYQs and when you try to attempt those PYQs, you will automatically understand what economy is demanding. It is all about application of your fundamentals. So here in fundamentals of macroeconomy, what you'll notice, you'll be noticing inflation concept and how rupee gets influenced, okay, and how bond gets influenced with respect to changing inflation, okay, increase or decrease in the trade, how it gets influenced. These concepts fall under the macroeconomy. So these two chapters itself covers the major chunk of economy. Every year for last 7 years or 8 years, if you look at, you will be noticing the same thing. So that's why when you do economy, first cover these topics and then you go for the current affairs. So rest all major areas are through the current affairs which are asked. So in polity, in economy, and then coming to geography. In geography, what you have to read? See here for economy, which book you can follow? You can either follow Nitin Singhania or you can follow Vivek Singh Economy. So even Vivek Singh Economy is good enough for economy. And for geography, in geography, NCRTs are more than sufficient. You have to do all your NCRTs very neatly. So this is 11th standard NCRT, okay, so which is world, and then you have another NCRT which is Indian. So Indian geography, world geography, and along with that human geography of 12th standard. Okay, so this you can just go for basic concept, but you should be thorough with every topic that is mentioned in these NCRTs, okay, with respect to 11th standard Indian and world. If you observe, none of the question went beyond this, and after that if they have asked something, then it is mapping only. So mapping are mostly based on conflict regions or any international happenings between the India and the other countries. So that diplomatic relations will also influence the mapping questions. So you should be aware about that. Okay. So now we are trying to work out the practical strategy, right? So first I said you have to take 2 to 3 topics on each day, solve all PYQs, and go to the standard source and try to finish your basic reading. So that means within first 2 months or 2.5 months itself, you will gain the confidence to score 65 to 70 marks. So when you are ready to score 65 to 75, 65 to 70 marks in the first 2 months, then you still have 4 to 5 months left in your hand. All you need to do is improve by 40 to 45 marks. This you will be covering current affairs. Then you will also be covering extra topics, so which will give you more and more confidence, and more practice will help you reach that stage. So first, polity, the easy scoring area. You have 15 to 20 questions and accuracy should be very high. Then economy, conceptual clarity is very important. And here you should be focusing on the main topics that I told you, two important topics, that is monetary policy and banking. Second is fundamentals of macroeconomy. Okay. And then coming to environment, every year 15 questions are asked, and in these 15 questions also you should be focusing on those areas which are in news and other basic concepts. You can read Shankar IAS or you can also read PMF IAS. Both have covered the basics. And if you have solved PYQs, then mostly all the basic concepts you will be able to clear. And at the same time, If you are following any magazine that is covering the current affairs decently, from there you will be able to cover all the 15 questions of environment. So from here itself, around 65 to 70 questions you are already thorough. Then you have the topics of geography. Geography, these days you will be noticing the weightage of geography is increasing in the prelims. Do not neglect this geography subject, because in the recent times, like almost around 22, 23, 24, 25, if you observe carefully, there is upward trend or upward graph of the questions of geography. So read thoroughly the basic NCRTs. I think you will be good to go. Then other subjects, history, spectrum, art and culture, I would suggest Nitin Singhania sir's handwritten notes should be read, and the main book you can read which are missing in the handwritten notes. Okay, so the book will be there, right? So book is very bulky, your return on investment is very less. That's why you read the handwritten notes, and then missing topics you can read from the textbook. Okay, so that would help. And whereas for ancient and medieval history, you know the old NCRTs are important. And here the written is very less in history. That's why focus on low hanging fruits. I'll be giving you the list. You can download from the link given below. I'll be pasting the link over there. So you can see that which are the areas which will be taking very less time, but will be giving you very high return. Okay, and then science and tech, it is all about current affairs. Map based questions, you have to focus on the conflict areas, because you know that Gaza area is Israel Palestine, and then Syria is in very much in news. And you also notice that the Caspian Sea is shrinking, right? Recently there has been news in the September that seabed might appear if the temperature increases by 2 degrees Celsius. So these kind of things which brings the geographical aspects into news, so which are either in crisis or they are also being in conflict. So either of these things will become very important for UPSC. So those areas you have to focus. And next thing, environment in mapping part, some static areas like national parks, wildlife sanctuaries, Ramsar sites. See again these days, if you notice, Ramsar sites crossed 70s, 80s in number. UPSC, I don't think it will be trying to test your memory of all the Ramsar sites, but you need to be very much aware which are recently added. So you should be knowing recently in which place it was added and where it's added, and the complete number that you should be knowing. That's very important, right? And current affairs. How much importance you have to give to current affairs? See, I told you for polity questions, around 20% are current affairs. For economy questions, around 30% are current affairs. Okay, and environment and science and tech, almost 50% or more are from current affairs rather than static. In science and tech, you will be noticing more as well. So that's why your focus should be on these three along with IR and mapping. So after doing this, then only go to other areas. Okay, so see, these things should be prioritized when you read your current affairs: polity, economy, environment, science and tech, IR and mapping. History, art and culture related current affairs, I would say try to keep it as the last priority. Okay, so that should be done at the last stage. Now first you have to focus on these things, because these are the areas which will be giving you maximum gain. And now if you have solved PYQs, if you have read your static books thoroughly and solve the tests. Now coming to test series, I'll be discussing it. If you have done these three, here itself you will cross the margin of cutoff. Okay, with basic current affairs knowledge. In any case, if you have done these three things properly, current affairs will be playing very less role. Somebody is interested in the more dynamic part, then they can cover the current affairs first, and then they can go for other things. See what they'll do, some of the students, they will do in a different way. what they'll do, they'll take a topic from current affairs, and from there they'll try to cover the static. So they can be done in both the ways, but which is followed conventionally by all the toppers is first solving PYQs, then covering the static books. Because current affairs, you cannot guarantee whatever you are reading may reflect or may not reflect. UPSC has consistently focused on these books and the topics from these books, because UPSC is not just judging those people who are taking the coaching. It is focusing on all those people who are from different parts of the country are attempting this examination. So from their point of view, it will be asking the questions. So what is the resource that is available to everyone? That is NCRTs and the basic books and the newspaper. So for them, this is more important, and they would like to test from this aspect. Okay. So you cover PYQs, you do the static books, then you have to do the test. See, tests are not to judge your level of preparation. You should not judge your level of preparation from any test, because these tests will never match the level of UPSC, be it any coaching. UPSC sets altogether a different pattern of paper. So now why are you giving test if it is not at all matching? The objective here is, under pressure, are you able to execute the concepts, the static concepts, what you have learned, and are you able to identify the PYQ patterns that you have learned, and whether you are committing any silly mistakes. Sometimes you do correct in case of incorrect question, statement will be what are the incorrect options. You will be doing the correct option, and sometimes correct you will be doing the incorrect, or sometimes you may not observe certain words. Okay, sometimes can and cannot can make lot of difference. So now when you're reading in hurry, you might miss it out. So if these kind of silly mistakes are happening, first you are giving one test. Okay, so you gave one test without analysis. Going to the next test is of no use. So that's why after giving the test, look what mistakes you have committed and note it down on a paper, and which static topics, because you know that there are 70 to 80 themes which we have identified. In these 70 to 80 themes which we have identified, when they come in the examination, because 70 to 80 themes are very important, they come every year, and now if they come in the test and if you are committing a mistake, then it means your static has to be worked upon. So now you have to note down those topics which you have to work. So give one day to improve on your mistakes, and check in the next test whether these mistakes are coming down or not. Okay, so are your mistakes reducing with test on test, or are they being the same or increasing? If it is same or increasing, then there is no improvement over there. So what's important here is to focus on the feedback and analysis that you get from this test. So, and never judge based on the marks that you get from these test series. Okay, so your marks in final examination is completely different from what you will get in the test series. Your objective is not to check how many marks you are getting, but it is only to see whether the PYQ themes and the static books basic questions, whether you are able to solve them properly, apply your knowledge properly in solving the question, and whether you are committing any silly mistakes or any other mistakes. Because sometimes what happens, when we sit in the examination, we think of the movie or we think of a song, suddenly it comes into our mind and it takes away our time. If these things are happening, that means you can assume that other person is completing one or two questions with more amount of peace and focus, which you might not be doing, and automatically you're out of the competition. So you should be developing that focus for 2 hours during the exam hours. Okay. Okay. So now this is with respect to PYQ, static books and tests, and how many tests you should be giving, how much time you should be reading. Now we have understood that okay, these all things have to be done. But how much time I should give and how many tests I should write? If we look at the time we have, so now what you can do is you can write around 40 tests, 1500 questions, which is combination of all the subjects. That means at least 15 full length tests and another 25 sectional. That means subject wise tests. So if you can do this, this will be good enough, because on each subject, like polity, if you can solve 4 tests, and for economy 4 tests, for geography 4 tests, for environment 4 tests. So which we have seen as important areas, right? See, now polity, I told you there are around 5 to 7 chapters where constantly the questions will come, current affairs. Now when you solve any test series, there you will be having static questions, at the same time PYQs and the current affairs questions. Then if you solve 400 questions, almost all the topics will be covered. Okay, so at least you have to solve 4 tests on polity, and then 4 tests on economy, 4 tests on geography, and 4 tests on environment. So with this, your core things are done properly. You have done PYQs, you have done static books, you have done tests. Now current affairs, I would say in my journey, we have made plenty of notes from newspapers but never revised, because it gets too bulky and sometimes it's not possible for anybody to go from the beginning to the end of the newspaper and find out what exactly is important within the short span of time. So that's why what we have to do is we have to follow one magazine, any magazine that you would like, you can pick it, and what you will do each day cover 2 areas. So I told you, you have to focus on polity current affairs, economic current affairs, geography and mapping, environment, and science and tech. What you will do? One day you will take 1 month, June current affairs, you will take polity economy and make notes, because in the magazine, what happens, lot of information is given in the magazine, and when you read it, you won't understand exactly at the end moment what you have to focus and what you should not. Now that's why you take the current affairs magazine, any magazine that you would like, take that, and in the polity section you are reading for 2 hours. I told you current affairs should not exceed more than 2 hours. Okay, in this half an hour is going to the newspaper itself. Now you have only 1.5 hours. Within this 1.5 hour, what you should do? You should take polity. You will be having 7 to 8 topics and just focus on what is important for prelims. Okay, and make a note out of it. So 1 month magazine will be covered in 1 week. 1 week, 1 month magazine. So by December 15, you will be covering 4 months of magazine, and by January 15, you will be covering 8 months of current affairs, and by February 15, you will be covering almost all the current affairs. Now you have notes of all the current affairs that is made. March, April, May, revise them multiple number of times. You said we have already given 2 hours, right? So now March, April, May, you will be just revising the notes you have made from these magazines. At the end, do not read magazines, throw them away. because there are 1,000 pages. It is impossible for any person to read. So if you cannot make notes, you can make color coding, which can help you revise at the end. But again, that is 1,000 pages is bulky. If you make notes, your memory also will be longer and it will help you revise very quickly. So that's why you can follow this strategy. This is very much possible. Okay. Today I'm giving 2 hours. I'm taking one magazine. I'm just reading two topics: polity, economy. Tomorrow I'll read geography, environment. Next I'll read science and tech, IR. So 3 days I have finished one magazine, or I may be taking 4 days or 5 days. Within 1 week I'll finish one magazine. I have made notes also. I'm not writing everything. I'm writing only what UPSC can ask. Or is it related to the static content? Then I'll just mention there I have to complete the static part of this topic. I'll be showing you one sample of our magazine. See, this is the magazine which we have made it. So this magazine is completely in tabular format. What I feel is when you open any magazine of any of the institutions, generally I found one problem. First, it is very clumsy. It's not comfortable to read. Readability is very less. And next, the problem is that out of all the things given, I have to identify which is very important, okay, which is relevant. Now I'll waste most of my time in searching itself. What we have done, we have directly given in tabular format. Now suppose there is this tribe that is in news, okay. So now what is this tribe, where is it located, and what are the other names, okay. So rest of the things you need not remember, because what we have done, we have highlighted what is the most important part of the news, okay. So whatever the news that is there, which is the most important part of it, that is what we have highlighted. Now Nilgiri tea, it is in crisis. Where is it cultivated? Now when there is tea in examination, they may ask the location itself. They can ask where is the tea cultivated, in which type of soil, what is the temperature, what is the kind of rainfall that you need. So those things are very important. So whether it has received GI tag or not. So if you can look here, so these are the important things. Where is it grown? What is the rainfall? What is the soil type? What is the seasonality? Just look at this. You will be able to read it in 1 minute. One topic, 1 minute. Then I'll tell you some more example. Now another news, that is Reunion Island. See, for authenticity, we have mentioned the links of the respective newspapers there itself. So we are not picking random news from here and there. What we are doing is we are trying to give you authentic Hindu, Indian Express, down to earth Times of India. If you read one of the magazine, I'll be giving you the link of this also. So we are giving the magazine as well. So you can see here. Now when this Reunion Island is in news, what you should be reading? It is not about Reunion Island, but its location. So, and the island, whether it's volcanic origin or earthquake related issues, so you should be focusing. So that's why we have already highlighted in different color. So now you can directly go to those areas which are very important after your first reading. So now you can see this in the map, where is it located, and they can ask you left to right arrangement or from top to bottom. So you can see north to south, west, east to west arrangement can be asked. So that you should be focusing. And next you have Scarborough Shoal. Okay, so this island, why is it in news? Because Philippines and China are fighting. So there is a claimants and the dispute, and you will directly be focusing on those areas of the mapping. So you'll be focusing that first you have above this Paracel Island, okay, and below this you have Spratly Island. It is closer to which country? It is closer to Philippines. It is almost 220 to 300 kilometers away. So you should be understanding what is needed. So like this, if you read within 1 hour, you'll be finishing all the major topics of geography and international relations. So one day I'm finishing two topics, another day I'll be finishing another two topics of the magazine. So in this way, within 1 week, I'll finish 1 month. I don't need to do anything much. I'll be just doing two topics or two subjects per month, and I'll be finishing 1 month of magazine in 1 week. So within 1 month, I'm finishing. So don't get confused. It's all month and week. So per day, two subjects current affairs, which will cover in a week 1 month of all subjects. Okay, 1 month magazine. One magazine is covered in 1 week. So now all you need is 12 weeks. So in 3 months, you'll cover all the current affairs, and then you have another 3 months to revise. Now here I have shown you, right? So now you can write down Scarborough Shoal, and you should just note that it is the dispute between China and Philippines. Where is it present? South China Sea. Along with this, okay, now along with this, what you have to focus is, sometimes they may not be asking regarding the Spratly Islands or regarding the Scarborough Shoal. What they'll be asking is whether Laos, which of the following countries are open to sea. Now, Vietnam, is it open? Yes. Cambodia is open. Thailand is open. But Laos is landlocked. Okay. So, L and L, landlocked. Laos is landlocked. So, which areas we have to focus, which things we have to focus? What we have done, we are creating current affairs videos also. There will be discussing these things, and for every month around 3 hours of videos, which after you going through the magazine and making down the notes from the highlighted content, we'll be giving you in color coded content. If you want, you can use this magazine. Okay, so this color coded content you can use for current affairs. Now what we have seen, we have dedicated 2 hours for current affairs. And how many weeks you need? You need 12 weeks and another 6 weeks for revision. So you plan this 18 weeks whenever you want, depending upon your preparation. So this is how you cover your current affairs. Then coming to general studies, okay, so you have around 7 books to be finished. Then you have to finish the PYQs. These things you have to finish with respect to static. So you have covered current affairs, you have covered static, you are covering the PYQs and books, and then you are also given tests. Okay, so these all things have to be done, and tests should be given every weekend or every 5 days or 4 days, depending upon your feasibility. Around 40 tests are recommended. But if you are solving PYQs thoroughly and you are understanding the importance of it, then you can change accordingly. But from my point of view, I would say PYQs are very important. Daily 2 to 3 topics of PYQs of last 40 years you have to do. Okay, so this is what you have to do for your prelims. Now, what we have done from our end. See, now this is self preparation. If you are preparing by self, current affairs magazines from our end we are providing, so that you can use for your self preparation. Second, for static, it is all your basic books, standard books that you have to do, and the PYQs, which is already readily available, and any test series. If you do this, you are done with your GS first paper. Now coming to CSAT. See, some people are good at reading comprehension and other are good at aptitude. So, quantitative aptitude. So now, based on your strengths, you have to work on the other aspect. I'll tell you, in CSAT, there are around 10 topics. See, here I cannot talk much because it is subjective. Who is setting the paper? It is from their mindset. So here it will be more risk. So I would always suggest, be prepared with the quant, and then if you want, you can go for reading comprehension also. But here itself we should assure to you that okay, I'll be clearing anyhow irrespective of what is going to happen with the reading comprehension. And is it difficult for non-mathematical background students to do this? Then I would say it is not, because I know many people who are coming from history or BA arts, they are comfortably clearing CSAT every year. So what they are doing, there are 10 topics. Okay, there are 10 topics. First, you should master these 10 topics. If you are mastering, automatically you will be getting maximum number of marks in the quantitative aptitude. Here, what are those 10 topics? There are topics like cubes, okay, 3D cubes, and they'll be asking regarding the percentages. You can go and check every year, you will be noticing this. And these are very much solvable. And then you have permutations and combinations. Then you have number system. So there are another 3 to 4 topics, okay, which you can do first. If you solve these 10 topics first, then in CSAT quantitative part, you don't face much of the problem. But what we do is, we tend to go for speed, okay, so time and speed related questions, average related questions. So first people invest more energy on those topics where there is less probability, and then later realize that these are the important things and we don't have time. That's why first solve these 10 topics. If you want the list, I'll be putting in the comment section, so there you can observe which are the 10 topics which are very important, and try to finish this in 1 month itself. If you are weak, do this. In CSAT, if you are weak, try to gain hold of these topics. Okay, you will first learn it. On YouTube you have everything. Okay, you just type that you need this topic clearly explained from A to Z, you'll get it. Watch it, and then if you want, I'll also share the questions on these 10 topics. You can practice, which is very similar to UPSC. Now once you are mastering these 10 topics, you are good to go with the quant part. And then reading comprehension, that you will be learning. So in reading comprehension, there are certain important things that have to be focused. So other respective faculty will be taking a session on this, and they'll be telling you how to deal with the reading comprehension part as well. So now GS and CSAT paper 1 and paper 2, if you are giving due amount of time without bothering about at which position you are now. Okay, so maybe you have completed your foundation, you haven't completed your foundation, or whether you are a beginner or a veteran, irrespective of anything, PYQs, then static books, then tests and current affairs. If you do this by giving due amount of time, you will easily able to clear prelims. You don't need to have a doubt about it. So most of the people who are self-disciplined can do it by themselves, and some of the students who cannot do it by self. See, I told you till now how you can do it by yourself. But if you cannot do it by self, and if you feel that you can't remain motivated throughout, you need help. So what we have done, we have come up with, the Laksha program. So here same thing, whatever you have been told, right? See, I don't want to guide you by shortcuts. We'll give you some material, read that material, or we'll be providing you some shortcuts, try to do that. And what happens, you'll go and experiment in the exam, and then if you fail in that, you have to spend 1 more year. So here we are not trying to provide you any shortcuts, we are trying to make you do what the toppers have done. So here first component is PYQs. Now what we have done, of all the last 40 years PYQs, we have divided subject wise Then within that, topic wise, daily 3 topics or 4 topics you can pick, solve those PYQs. First job is done. Then coming to a book a week program. So what is this book a week program? Now I told you, you have to read NCRT, geography NCRT. What will happen? We'll take the book, we'll sit with the book, and we'll try to finish it or complete it. We don't focus exactly what is the factual area within that. Suppose take the example of natural vegetation. If you see, every year there is a question within one paragraph itself from the NCRT. Still, many number of times we will fail to solve that question. Why? Because which is the factual area, which is the analytical area, we tend to miss out. So, anybody who cannot do by self, what we have done, we have brought a book a week. So, for every day, you will be spending 4 hours. Within that 4 hours, you will be covering 4 to 5 chapters on each day. We will be taking the book, we will also be there with you, and we will be telling that, okay, if this is the topic in the natural vegetation, what you have to focus upon. One is temperature, what is the rainfall, what, okay, so what kind of rainfall you have, what kind of climate you have, and at the same time, what is the flora, what is the fauna, okay, and what are the names of these flora and fauna. Okay, and UPSC have asked the names of the trees or names of the species that are present, and where is it located, in which part of the country they are located. So these things they ask. So when you are made to sit along with us, and when we tell you, you can highlight the factual part, you can focus on the factual part, you can focus on the part of that analysis which is needed. So we'll help you that, okay, this year UPSC asked question from this part of this page. So like this, will help you cover all your books, NCRTs, Spectrum, with respect to Shankar IAS, Environment or PMF IAS, Economy, Vivek Singh Sir or Nitin Singhania, or whatever the book that is very much relevant. And then for history, ancient and medieval, we'll be doing the NCRTs. So like this, for all the subjects, your static books are covered there. So within 6 weeks, you'll be covering 6 books in a book a week program. So the book a week program, if you observe that this is dealing with the static part, and for current affairs you have magazines plus classes as well. Okay, so you have just seen the magazine that is for September month. So similarly, the magazines are highlighted and given to you. You will be doing your own notes, you will be studying it. But some students, see, we are just doing those classes for those students who did not finish or who want to listen the things passively. Sometimes students don't want to work more, they are more interested in reading, sorry, in watching the videos than reading the content. So in that case, you can do it through the videos, or else magazines would be sufficient and you will be able to read it, because we are already highlighting the most important thing. And all this combined, okay, so test series, PYQs, because in PYQs, for all the subjects, for every topic, last 40 years, PYQs are covered. So PYQs, test series, current affairs, and a book a week program included, we are providing at a very nominal price. This is not intended to cost you anything. Okay, so here it is the only thing to keep you motivated, because these are only the handling charges that we are charging from the students. Because you see, almost 45 tests you have over there, and at the same time you are having the classes for current affairs, you are having the classes, live classes. For a book a week program, you will have the recorded class also. So everything is being provided. The intention here is to make all the students follow the right standard path which every topper followed. Because what is happening these days, most of the students, by seeing some fancy courses, they are trying to jump into those fancy courses, and after that they're regretting they did not do the standard thing. What every topper is saying, do the PYQs, do the standard books, give the tests, and read the current affairs. This is what every topper will say. Anybody who has done UPSC very well in their preparation will be saying the same thing. So that is what we are helping you do it. So you can do it by self also. In case if you feel that your self discipline or the motivation is low for various factors, you can approach us for the course as well. So this is Laksha Prelims for Prelims 2026. So it depends on you as well. If you have any doubts, you can ask. I'll be trying to address. So if you haven't read anything and if you're seeing PYQs, then you need not solve the answer, you need not get the answer. If you are seeing the PYQs for the first time, then at least you will get to know that when you are reading the book, where you should emphasize, which topic you should be prioritizing. So that's why when you see the PYQs and read the book, you will be saving lot of your energy by not putting in the wrong areas. So that is the intention. I was telling you that even if you haven't done your syllabus completely, look at PYQs once. You need not sit and solve for 2 hours or 1 hour, but go through them for 15-20 minutes, observe them carefully, then you read the book. That will be very much guided with the right direction. Okay, so that is the intention, Vishnu. Okay, so if you have any doubts, you can ask. That's it. Okay, so I hope you are clear with what has to be done for prelims. So these are the four things that you have to do, and I will be posting the list of the books that you have to follow. That is a bare minimum. You can't avoid these things at any cost. Books, what you have to follow, and within the books, which chapters are very important. So if you are a beginner or if you have very less time, if you can cover this decently, then also you'll be able to cover prelims. Okay, we should read the entire book, but the main things should not be skipped. So that was my opinion and point of view for prelims, and I would suggest emphasize on these things, and you can get all the summary of what has been discussed in the PDF that I'll be posting below. Okay, so this is with respect to prelims, and if you have anything, you can reach out to us on this number. Okay, any doubts or queries, you can reach out on this number. We'll try to. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.